Yep.
All right, everybody take their seats.
Well, I'm excited about to see the difference between the footage of Jim Zorn
all-
playing.
Look at the cheerleaders.
like-
It's all black and white.
That's
It's all
HD
black
for
and
you.
white to start with.
What year were you born, Russell?
I was born in '88.
What about you?
75.
Yeah.
I like this.
I-
Listen,
This is like one
can
of
we
the
run
very.
that back?
This
or
is
no?
one of the
Can
very
we run that
early
back? Is
years
that
of
possible?
football.
Hip pads
Hip pads.
My-
Yeah, those are knee pads.
and
My hip-
pockets.
My hip pads were knee pads that I had brought from my college. I put them in my. I put them in my.
What was your college?
hip.
Where'd you go?
Cal Poly.
I went to
Pomona.
Cal Poly Pomona,
most interesting
and I had
thing
no idea that I had a pocket in my jersey. Nice.
I think the
Matt
most
picked that
interesting thing about this is that Matt wishes he had your hair.
We all do. Well, you got that lettuce. It's called lettuce. It's like hockey hair.
Yeah, curly.
Jim's doing this left-handed too, by the way. It's pretty impressive.
Very impressive wheels.
What was it? What was it
Jim's
like
on.
playing with Steve?
It was
How'd you-
great. The very first game, very first regular season game that we played, he had only been there for a couple weeks because he came the last two preseason games. And I remember he was on the left side. I didn't know him all that well, and I threw a ball. I kind of scrambled a little bit to my left, and I threw a vertical, and he went prone, and he was about this high off the ground, and he dove out and caught this ball
Oh, wow.
that shouldn't have been caught. It was unbelievable. And I thought, man, this is really going to be so much fun.
Who would you have compared him to today?
Probably any slot receiver that could not be covered.
Yeah.
Anquan Bolden,
Yeah.
right?
Tough.
And you see him just getting deep, right? I've thrown a bunch of deep balls because he could go at his speed. He could run right up and close the cushion on a guy, and kind of he would kind of try to get the guy's eyes, and then he'd look this way and he'd go.
Yeah.
You just had to have rhythm.
Jim can still sling it. He can't walk anymore, but he can still
He can
throw
still
the
sling
it. Yes.
Dave, that's you chucking it
That was
there. huh?
nice.
You're going to see a lot of guys make a lot of great catches now.
Did you guys throw a lot of deep balls back in the day when you guys played?
Yeah, I like doing that. Play action deep balls.
action deep balls.
Yeah. But there was a lot more man-to-man physical receivers. You had Lester Hayes. He had Stickum on his body. Fred Blickhoff.
So guys would really wear stickum. That was a real
the
thing.
defensive guys
Pine
would wear
tar,
Stickum. Pine tar,
Put
yes.
it on their socks. Put it on their.
They'd
Put it on
be
their
holding
sleeves.
receivers 15, 18 yards down the field. I mean, it was a little bit different game.
Lester Hayes had stick 'em all on
Yeah.
his ankle. I thought he just liked the look of it, though.
No, he would always dab, and then if any of those guys
he would dab.
touched a ball,
Different dab.
right? You just kind of get your fingers on that stuff. When he would touch a ball, or any of those guys that had pine tar on their hands and get on the ball, I hated it.
Oh, really?
Because it was slimy to me.
I'm curious why you guys wore 10 and 17. Like, why those numbers? Did you choose it, or someone choose it for you?
I
Dave?
took any number they gave me. I mean, I was just happy to be here. I wasn't drafted.
So that's why
I didn't get to
17?
tell them when they could sign my contract. I didn't get to tell them when they could pay me or anything like that. They just gave me that number. That's the only reason I wore it.
I always wore 10 when I first started football. So in high school, I was 10.
I did wear 8 in college.
My story's probably similar to yours.
Oh,
I never
gosh.
wore 8 till here.
Did you ever run many, Dave?
Yeah, I like to run.
Yeah.
I ran some touchdowns. And this is a pretty cool game. This guy sacked me 7 times in this game, Derek Thomas.
Sounds like Aaron Donald.
Derek Thomas, he's passed away now, but Aaron Donald's a beast, I know. But this guy was a linebacker like Lawrence Taylor.
7 sacks?
We scored with no time left on the clock. 7 sacks just by him, and then Salamua.
So you threw it to the tallest receiver.
I
in the
threw it
end
to
zone.
Paul Scanzi, actually. Yeah, the shortest
When
guy.
you played, as you're playing, do you have tights, short sleeves?
Yeah, I go all the way to my elbow.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Now, do you like them tight to your elbow?
Yeah, I like them pretty tight. I don't like them past my elbow tight though.
Matt?
Like, I don't like wearing long sleeves. Though.
No, I'm old school.
You kind of had them way up.
Yeah.
Right? When I played, I had a panel put in my sleeve to make it bigger, so I wouldn't get, so it wouldn't
Tight.
So it'd
You
be
had
loose.
those baggy sleeves
Yeah.
too.
I can see you, Matt. You liked them way up, but you wanted them to see your guns.
That's what it was.
Custom made
You know what?
jerseys.
One,
I didn't have any guns, so I
Hey,
wanted my sleeves a little
There
bit
was
long.
one game, I'm trying to think, John Randall threw like a Halloween party,
Mm-hmm.
and we were playing the Steelers, and I had a temporary tattoo of like a
I don't know, a panther or a tiger or something from the Halloween party, and I couldn't get it off my arm, and I played in the game. Now, I thought about changing my sleeves for that game, but
I want to see footage.
it didn't happen.
I think we should wear the old school jerseys that you guys used to wear back
See,
in the day.
I don't know why you wear that color rush lime green stuff. I wish you'd wear our old school stuff.
Yeah, that'd be cool to wear.
I mean, I think you're.
I think it'd be a good alternate.
You have
to wear.
some say, so you might be able to tell
What'd you
somebody
just say?
here.
What'd you say to him?
I wasn't a fan of Rodney Harrison at the time. He's one of those guys that was like probably really nice off the field, but on the field it was kind of.
He always had a little extra for.
Yeah, but Matt, you were a feisty dude, man.
I was a punk from Boston. That is true. I remember this game though. We needed to win this game to knock them out of the playoffs. I was just going into it with a completion mentality and ended up throwing for more yards than I ever threw for in a game.
That's pretty
so
cool.
It's a good learning lesson.
You can thank Rodney Harrison for that, maybe.
Yeah.
One of the things, if you watch Matt, that that I had fun coaching with was his ability to throw the ball on rhythm and anticipate
all the time.
Anticipate, just bam, 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 poof, and getting the ball out. It was.
That's because if you completed a pass, like a comeback or something, with 2 hitches, Jim would give you a minus on your grade sheet.
That's right.
You had too many hits.
Right.
Like, right,
So you coached him here?
Yeah, he was my quarterback
all
coach.
7 years.
That's
Yeah.
incredible. Jim, is that you right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's you.
He's going, what are you doing?
Was he hard on you or what?
He was very hard. We practiced out in Cheney, Washington initially, and he would take the quarterbacks out for like a very, very hard bike ride before training camp. It was much harder than the conditioning test, and I remember like literally puking my brains out after this bike ride, trying to keep up with Jim. I was like Trent Dilfer, Brock Heward, right there in these fields
There
right
it is.
here.
That's exactly right. That's
I
us
remember
right there.
running those hills. Oh my gosh, those are the days. That's when it started. Up downs.
Yes.
You guys don't even do
So-
up
No,
downs.
Jim would have us do up down.
So Jack
my
5
Patera,
years, 10 years.
this was training camp. This is Jack Patera. There's
Look
Steve
at
right
that.
there. Listen, we think about this. We had no water
Yes.
on the field.
No water during training camp.
at
Cheney.
any time.
Why
And,
no water? Were you
That
starving
was
y'all?
Jack's
or
way. Bud
Did
Grant.
you guys
was
did you guys eat?
we
got
ate.
to
We
eat.
ate really good,
With
man.
the red jersey.
Cafeteria
See,
food,
they're in red jerseys too.
better than what I ever ate before.
Pennies. Those guns.
Look at that gun.
Gun show.
That's good.
That was
stuff.
the good thing
so
about
where
Cheney.
were you guys practicing at this point in
East,
training camp?
at Eastern Washington University.
Okay,
That's
gotcha.
where that is.
Yeah.
Which I actually loved.
You were over
loved
there
going-
too, huh?
Yeah, it was
so,
great.
Of the 4 of us 3 were there. You just never had the opportunity, but it was different. You were way isolated. It was just all guys.
It was all football.
Yeah, all football.
That's pretty fun. That's Nate Burleson.
So fun.
He was signing your shirt. I loved it.
Nate B.
Coach Holmgren right there, right?
Ooh, Coach Holmgren was a very tough coach to play for.
Yeah.
I mean, Jim would get yelled at as much as I would get yelled at. Like I would make a mistake,
No.
and Mike Holmgren would scream at Jim.
He did not scream at me. In fact, the only time he was upset one time because I was taking too long with how to pitch the ball. I don't know if you remember that. And
36F,
He goes,
I
"What are you
do."
doing? Just turn and pitch it." I was going, "No, we don't want to just turn and pitch it." But we did take a long time. There it is. That's the Kingdom. So when we drove up, we just parked with all
We
the
parked in a
fans.
parking lot.
Really?
You just parked, and then as you're walking in, the fans are going, "Hey, have a great day today. Yeah,
Have a great game."
Yeah, enjoy."
It was different.
What was Seattle like in the late 70s or early 80s, mid 80s?
It was like that right there.
Like, just in
We
terms
used to
of-
do the wave too. I wish we'd do that for your guys' games.
Wasn't the wave
is
invented
so-
here? Is
Yes.
that true?
Yeah.
The wave is such a cool thing, man. The Kingdom was an extra man. It was the 12th man, literally.
was it
so loud.
Was it louder than CenturyLink, you think? Or
It's
different?
as loud.
It's
Yeah.
as loud, and
Yeah.
I would say it's the loudest indoor place I've ever played in,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. I wore Nike Air Force Ones when I played in the Kingdom because the AstroTurf, it was flat. It was like a carpet.
Yep.
And
With
you
concrete underneath it.
and
had to hurt.
those basketball shoes and full leather, all leather, they were great. They gave me, great traction. But anytime you would land on the turf, you'd get burns. So you learned how to put Vaseline on the burn while you were taking a shower, because then it wouldn't sting, and then
Yep.
you'd get the Vaseline off. And, yeah, I think the fans were great in the Kingdom because they had posters, a few people dressed up and stuff. But as soon as CenturyLink came, it was a whole new ball game. I mean, a
Well, and
lot
think
of
about it, it's those same people. right? The
Yes,
same people
yeah,
that were loud
yeah.
in the Kingdom understand when to be loud, how to be loud.
Right.
But when I first got here, we were playing at Husky Stadium, and listen, it was loud on Saturdays there, but on Sundays it wasn't
Yeah,
that loud. Like
yeah.
I don't think it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't where people wanted to watch a Seahawks game because
Right.
it wasn't the Kingdom, and it certainly isn't what we have now. This game was amazing.
I
This
was
was
wondering
the
why
crowd.
we're watching Eli. What's going on here?
The crowd. I mean, basically the crowd. I forget how many times they jumped off sides. It was maybe 10 times.
Oh, I see.
Maybe
That was the
more.
new CenturyLink.
That was
Yeah.
CenturyLink, and that's when our crowd really took over and really never looked back. I mean, our crowd was so loud. We had a red phone. Jim was in the booth, and I'd come over to talk to the quarterback coach on the phone. And if it was third down, we would just have to like sit there and wait. Like, hold on, it's third down. Like I could not even hear him on the phone.
Right.
So it was, and this was a game that was a huge game for us. And without all the false starts by the New York Giants, we don't win it.
Really?
I love when the defense jumps off sides against you because it's on.
Oh yeah.
Like
going
those
deep.
receivers, those receivers know.
You were
Free
good
play.
at that too, Matt. You would always get people to jump
Not
into
with
that.
Russ is like next level. Like somebody jumps off sides, it's on, and something good's happening.
I'm hucking it somewhere.
Well, you want to get the defense kind of thinking, you're in a rhythm, and then throw them off that rhythm, as much as you can.
See, I tried that run right, run left, run right thing. It wasn't the same.
It's hard to stand up after a while. You get dizzy.
That last play was a touchdown to Sidney Rice. That was probably one of my key games in my career, is beating the Patriots.
Is that the game where Russell said, "You mad, bro"? Is that the game?
I think
Yeah,
it is actually.
I remember that.
When
Sherm
Sherm said that?
Yeah. But that was the game. That was a touchdown to Sidney Rice last play.
Nice move.
That's a little Zorn-esque right there.
Yeah.
I've had that happen.
Playoff game. That's never good when you're trying to change the play and the
No.
ball snaps over your head. But
And then you make something happen.
T-Lock saves the day. That game was cold.
Nice
It was
move.
freezing.
There you go.
Looks
I gotta
like
tell you,
Jim
kid.
Zorn right there.
No,
You made
that's
us proud.
that's a different kind of.
You made us proud.
You were
man.
running. You knew what you were doing there. I was running just to not get hit.
When I was playing here, one of the things that always bothered me is that there was like no Seahawks gear anywhere. Like we'd get skipped over on national primetime games. We couldn't even get highlights. And then that Super Bowl in New
I
York,
remember
I
that
just
play.
remember being in New York and there was Seahawks gear everywhere.
That game
It
was that
awesome.
Super Bowl was crazy just because of it was supposed to be snowing that night. Supposed to be like 30 degrees, freezing,
And you had
20
perfect weather.
degrees, and it was perfect weather. The moon's out and everything, a full moon. And I'll never forget, we're going out for the coin toss. One of my favorite things being growing up and watching Super Bowls, watching you play in that Super Bowl and everything else is like the flashing lights right before the game. That's when the Super Bowl's on, right? That's the difference between that game and any other playoff game or any other football game. So we go out for the coin toss, and meanwhile I'm walking across, and it's Peyton Manning walking across, Champ Bailey. We do the coin toss, and they actually take it out of his hand and say, "Wait, you gotta let him call heads or tails." And so I just remember that experience.
That
Just
was Joe
realize-
Namath.
Joe Namath
Yeah,
did that.
and he was
Yeah.
wearing the mink
Remember
coat.
he had that big
he, was
mink
wearing,
coat?
he was wearing the mink coat.
You
and-
remember all that.
and I just remember taking it out of his hand and I was like, okay, this is going to be a great game. I just had a feeling, and sure enough, we were able to win.
This is a cool play.
Go Ephraim. Go block
Were
somebody.
you the holder for the field goal kicker?
Yeah.
Jim was the holder.
Now
They
we
used
have
to do
we
a lot
have
of fake
whole,
field goals.
We have a whole reel of look at how big my sleeve is. Oh my gosh.
That's Efren Herrera. He's a pretty
Efren
damn
Herrera,
good kicker.
lead blocker, catching touchdowns.
He's
He's
a good
a scorer.
athlete. Efren is a good athlete. Look at this one. Jeff Wett. Oh, it's
Lots of-
Norm Johnson.
Wow.
Look at you.
These are like technical plays.
Oh, you wanted to get a touchdown so bad.
Listen, there's one of these that it's not even a fake field
That
goal.
was actually a good play.
That was the first one. That was the first one that really meant a lot. That was on national television. But one of the we were kicking a field goal, and I'm looking to see if Efren is ready, and I get hit in the head with the ball. We're playing the Raiders. The ball just careened off. I went back. I got it. I scrambled around. I threw it to Dan Dornick for a minus 35-yard gain.
There you go.
Right?
It's good for your stats.
He got hit, and it was minus 35 yards. So.
All right, so speaking of coin tosses, I think we got one coming up here.
No, you mean the
I'd like to hear your perspective on this because I don't think you and I have ever talked about it.
yeah.
So I got traded from the Packers. We're playing the Packers. We played them earlier in the year.
Here it is.
Yep.
You know, I kind of played like everyone's like, control your emotions, control your emotions. You're going back playing your friends. And so we played, and I played like a boring game the first time around. The second time was just kind of like, cut it loose, man. Have fun. You know, go play. And we played really well. We shouldn't have been in the game. We're in the game. We go back out to the coin toss at overtime, and I'm talking smack to my buddy Ryan Longwell, who was my kicker when I was the holder in Green Bay. Part of the reason I even wear 8 in Seattle, Ryan Longwell. So talking trash to him, trying to get our team to kind of believe that, hey, we can do this too.
We want the ball, we're going to score.
You know, it didn't end up obviously didn't end up the way that I wanted it to end up, but I don't think I would change anything about that besides the audible.
The audible
on
was
3rd
decent.
and 7. But
So what was the play?
They knew the audible. I mean, that guy.
No. Here's what happened.
He sat on an out
no,
route.
no way.
No.
So
I was there.
here's what happened. They
fell
show
on it.
blitz. I go to the audible. They called timeout. Huddled everybody over, and 2 of their coaches, Ed Donatel being one of them, tells their DBs, hey, listen, we're going to bring the same blitz. If they're in 4 wides, they're going to do the same audible. If they do, you know, fire your gun, make a play. And, you know, probably should have had my antenna up to that more than I did.
It's a
but,
hard throwing a short one to your left.
so
if it's to your right, you could probably seen it quicker.
I
No.
just trusted it a little too
Yeah.
much.
You know the play
you're like a coach.
that you're in
200
the
gets
Super
under.
Bowl,
Yep.
right? That you keep rehearsing, reviewing in your mind a
Yep.
lot, right? It was exactly the same thing. I probably spent at least 2 or 3 hours just watching the one play and analyzing everything that goes on. He makes the right audible. He's got a soft corner, hard inside though,
Yeah.
and he's going to throw a hitch, which he does off his 3rd step, and we're not going to talk about who did what, but listen, the
I'm mad I
DB's in
didn't
here.
catch him, to be
Here's the
honest.
receiver. Here's the receiver. So the receiver does this.
Oh, it goes too deep, probably.
No, he does this. He leaves the guy inside.
It does it.
The guy's hard inside to begin with. He just had to really just go front him up and pinch him off.
The truth of it is, from
You
my
go look
perspective,
at it,
though,
Matt. That is the
truth
truth
of
of
it is for me is that, you know, as all quarterbacks, there's a moment before every interception. Like, you don't learn the lesson until you throw the interception.
Yeah.
You know, like, you're like kind of letting it go, or maybe you feel bad about it and then you let it go high. But that's the X's and O's of the play. The overall thing for me in that game, though, like, was Mike Holmgren had been talking to our team all year long. Guys, I've been on teams that were great. The Niners, the Packers, we won championships. You guys, we have enough in this room to be great, to get there. And like, the team didn't really believe it.
Right.
And like, I don't know if I believed it right away, but then we all started to believe it. And I think that was probably one of the biggest things is like, yes, we can do, like, we have the people in this room that we can get this done. And I think that was probably the lesson for the year for us is like, hey, we can get this done.
Yeah.
We just need to go get it done. There was something that Mike had said about the Niners teams, about Bill Walsh's teams, and he said, when the players care a little bit more than the coaches, that's when
That's a
something
great point.
special happens.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
true
they
about
did
playing
that.
quarterback, though. Wouldn't
Yeah.
you say, Jim? Like, you try to make your players in the huddle play better than they're capable of, and
Yep.
try to make them as good as they can be. And then you got to make everybody believe what you're really good at too, is believing that, hey, we're good and we should be good. You know.
I think the key of playing quarterback is
Sin
it's
Daddy.
almost like you got to be a great actor. You got to sell every play.
That's right.
You know, so whether
With
if
passion.
whether if it's a run, whether it's pass, whether it's play action, whether if the game's on the line, whether if it's 4th and 7, whether if it's game last play of the game, whether if it's 2-minute situation. I
Right.
think going in there, hey guys, this is what's going to happen.
Right.
And painting that picture in their head.
Right.
And verbalizing that picture. And I think that as you go throughout the week, the more that you can paint that picture for what's going to happen. Hey, this is going to, circling that play. Hey guys, this one's going to matter. This one's going to happen. Hey, if they go cover 2, be ready for that honey hole shot. Like
Right.
all those different conversations that, just whatever it may be. I think painting that picture is the really the key
Because you
part
want
of
your
it.
receivers, when they break the huddle, to think they're going to get the ball.
Yeah.
Each and every one of them, so they all run their routes good,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's part of it.
And all 3 of you are talking about that when the players take over, the coach's job is so much easier because and really, we would back off and not have to say hardly anything.
Yeah, I think
even at practice,
yeah.
all week long.
I think being coachable too, like that was something that I struggled with early on. Like I didn't, I was coming from Green Bay, so there was the same verbiage. And so we were using the same verbiage here, but we were coaching it a little bit differently as we were growing, as we were maturing. And, I think that was a good lesson for me too, like finding ways to be coachable. I know I wasn't easy on Jim, so.
Yeah, but look who you had as a mentor, Brett Favre, right? I mean,
yeah, and so
he's not the most coachable guy in the world either. So you're like, well, this is where I'm going to be, maybe.
it's finding a balance, like I wasn't as athletic as these two guys, so it was never like tempting to do too much outside the box. But I got to believe it's hard for you guys, especially you. It's got to be like this fine line, but like, hey, I'm going to make a great play, but it could be 2nd and 17. But you don't want to take away. That's how it was for Favre. You don't want to take away what makes him so great.
Right.
But yet at the same time, you want to find a way.
Well, I think it's
to stay on schedule.
The balancing of the time and place. I also think, as I've gone throughout my career so far, is who you're trying to do it against. Because, if it's Von Miller, it's one thing, right? You're probably not going to get away from him very often. Aaron Donald, you're probably not going to get away from him very often. So it just depends on who that guy is that you're around, the chances that you take. It's, you're essentially, betting on, your guys and believing in that and having that confidence to believe in that, but also realizing what point of the game is it too. Is it early in the game? Is it late in the game? Is it the middle of the game?
You need to have it.
Sometimes you need to have it, So I think making that difference.
Oh, this is funny. I wish we could rewound it. It was 4th down, and we had to go for a touchdown. Snap the ball. I wasn't looking. I chased it around. Danny Green's running a corner route. I remember
never
that.
seen this play. This is crazy.
I get the ball, and there he is. I appreciate Jim being the role model for me, and then you guys have carried the torch. You won an NFC championship. You won an NFC championship. You got to a Super Bowl. You won the Super Bowl. I know all the Seahawks fans are proud of you, but to go back to the past and realize where everything started and how it does, I think that really gives you a greater appreciation. We really appreciate what you guys did, and I'm just happy to be here. I'm glad the Nordstrom family, too. That's something else we should mention, too, and then Mr. Allen.
Yeah, and I can remember almost the first day of football that ever started. That's how old I am.
Right.
Most memorable, just think about it. We had the first season for the Seahawks ever. Stepping on the field, being in the Kingdome, fresh, everybody so excited about the game. We were 2-12 our first season, which is not memorable, but I do have it in my memory. 2-12 our first season, and you thought we had almost made the playoffs. That's how excited fans were about having a team.
Yeah.
And we got better very quickly, struggled to make the playoffs in those next few years, but we were competitive for an expansion team. So, there's so many memories there. I remember.
What was the first touchdown?
My first touchdown, I believe, was to Sam McCullum on a post where we had a dig on the Steve's side, and then all I did was watch the free safety, and he just sort of hung. It was a play action, I believe, and I threw a post to him for a touchdown.
Nice.
That's funny. Sam McCollum's the first guy I threw my first pro touchdown.
Was it really?
Yes, isn't that funny?
But I remember all those fake field goals. They were fun.
Those were fun.
And I remember lining up the very first regular season game, and that's after all the final cuts. So our team was really changing because we had an expansion team. I remember his name was Ralph Nelson. I didn't even know who he was. He was a running back, and I'd turn around and go, 44, move over. I just knew his number. I just looked at him and, called him by his jersey number because I didn't know his name. And so we had a lot of new guys coming in just to kind of fill out the team or get a few players that were better than maybe what we had at that time. But there was a lot of memories, and then I have a lot of memories being a coach on this team as well with Mike. We had a room that was really good. I had to be really on my stuff because Matt is a brainiac, as so was Trent.
Hard to coach.
And then we had Brock, and we had Seneca Wallace. Those were pretty special times.
Yeah, we had good rooms.
Yeah.
But Jim was the only coach on our staff that I remember that, you know, you're getting on the bus at the hotel and all the memorabilia autograph guys, they're trying to get Jim's autograph too. So the bus is ready to leave and Jim's out there signing autographs and Mike Holmgren's like, okay, start up the bus.
Yeah.
Well, I can remember your first Super Bowl texting you and saying something to the effect of, like, you have no idea how many former Seahawks are pulling for you today.
I remember
Like,
that. Right,
it
right,
means, however much it means to you,
Yeah.
it means a lot to us as well.
for sure.
So
It was
Well, no,
really cool.
It's obviously a pleasure just to be around you guys. Jim, I've gotten to know you over the years, just really, when you were actually coaching. Where were we coaching at the time? When you
I was either in I was with Baltimore or Kansas City.
Kansas City. You were
Yeah.
in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting down at the combine with you.
That's right.
Yeah, we sat down in the combine, the big conference room area.
right.
We had a great meeting for about 15, 20 minutes, just talking about ball and life
Yeah.
and everything else. And I knew you played for the Seahawks
Yeah.
at that, back in the day, and just how it comes full circle now. And then
Yeah.
just meeting you in so many other places around here, and then
Yeah.
Dave too, as you as well, just taking over from
Right.
Jim and his experience and the winning success and everything else.
You know what's cool that people don't know about? You remember Nick Lowry?
Yep.
Your dad held for Nick Lowry in college.
Yeah, he did.
At Dartmouth, right?
At Dartmouth.
And I held for Nick Lowry for the Kansas City Chiefs, and I hated holding. You liked holding. That's the most thankless job there is. All you can do is screw up, right? That's all you can do. The guy makes a game-winning field goal, they're not going to come to the holder, or they don't come to the center, right? So, but I think that's pretty cool that we have a
him and
little
Nick Lowry
connection
were like
there.
really
you know?
good friends.
That
That's
is-
small
And
world,
you
huh?
played baseball. I played baseball in college too. I was a relief pitcher.
Yep.
You were like a second baseman, shortstop type,
Yep.
and you could hit. I couldn't hit. So.
I'm gonna jar your memory. I just got to tell a quick story I wanted to tell. So when I was in 3rd grade, my dad was on the Los Angeles Raiders, and
It would have been 83.
83, and
Yep.
the Seahawks beat them twice that year.
But we lost the playoff game, the
And
championship
I was
game.
at that wild card game. You lost, or sorry, at the
It
championship
was a
game.
championship game.
Yeah.
We beat them twice that year.
was
I'll
at the
never forget
Coliseum.
that. That's the one I remember the most. You always remember the bad games or the bad passes. That's the one I remember. It's like the Raiders knew what it was like to get to the Super Bowl. We were just fledgling, just starting off. We just won 2 playoff games. Oh my God, we went down to Miami and 17-point underdogs. We beat them. We come back, we're going to the Raiders, but we thought we'd won everything. So it's a process of learning. You know, you guys, it took a while, and you got to believe you were good and all that stuff. But yes, we got our butts kicked by the Raiders that year. You were at that game?
I was at that game. I was in 3rd grade.
You got to play in that game too.
You threw 2 touchdowns.
When I
that
threw
day?
interception to Matt Millen, I knew I was done in the 3rd quarter. I'm like, you got to take me out. If Matt Millen's going to pick me off, then I'm no good to this team.
So when you guys played, because when you were ending up, he was coming in and everything else, right? So so you guys played in the same games together, like let's just say that the Raiders game. You guys both played in that game?
Well, we played in that game because I was like 3 out of 9. If you count the 3 interceptions, I was 6 out of 9 for that game. I was terrible. I hate those.
But that's
kind
a
of games.
dynamic. That's a dynamic that's
They ha-
tough at the quarterback position because one guy plays.
Yeah.
You know,
And I
we had a buffer year, so we're cool. We're good.
Well,
Yeah.
we didn't have that. I mean, Jim broke his ankle, and I had to start the last 3 games, and the next, I might be starting, and I just came from Milton College. It doesn't even exist. I never flew on a plane, didn't know how to tie a tie, and now I'm playing in the NFL.
Who tied your tie for you?
Mike Casey taught me how to tie a tie when I was 21 years old. Steve Largent took a clip-on tie that I wore on a plane off. I was walking from the bathroom, and he's got a clip-on tie. You're 35,000 feet up there. Embarrassing. It's just bad.
Well,
It's cool being with you guys, though. it really
I
is.
remember we had a playoff game against the Washington Redskins, and we had not won a playoff game in so long. And the media all week was talking about the last time the Seahawks won a playoff game was when you guys did
Right.
it down in, I think was it down in Miami?
Well, that was the last one we won, yes. That's
So
right.
that was the last one, and I just remember feeling I really never felt that much pressure coming into a game like that. But for some reason, there was a lot of pressure to win a playoff game. And I
Right.
saw before the game, all the names you see up in the Ring of Honor, all you guys were like out on the field. And a lot of your former teammates, and like we were excited. It's a playoff game. You guys were more excited.
Oh man, but we didn't even think you recognized us
it
because
was
you're focused on the game.
unbelievable. Like goosebumps
fired
seeing
up,
how
yeah.
fired up you guys were for that game, and Jim is my quarterback coach. He's fired up, and so when we were able to get that win, that's like probably one of my most memorable
That's cool.
wins that we ever had here in
Yeah.
Seattle, because it meant a lot to us, but it meant so much to the guys that came before
Right.
us, and
That's
it
cool.
was really, I mean, it was really, really neat,
Well,
especially for a franchise that has not been around for 100 years.
Right.
yeah.
You know, but doesn't mean that there's not amazing tradition and history and stories and players
Yeah.
and coaches and all that stuff.
I think that my favorite memory, obviously winning the Super Bowl, but I think coming back home to Seattle and having, you know, a million people in the streets and just that experience
God.
alone. And you know what's amazing about sports, and obviously the game of football, but just sports in general, is it doesn't matter what you look like. You know, it doesn't matter if you're a fan from wherever you are, no matter what your socioeconomic status is, doesn't matter what your race is, like seeing people come together is the most fascinating thing.
And you hear them say,
And I think that definitely in the locker room, players and stuff, but also even fans. Seeing somebody painted in blue and green that looks one way and somebody else, you know, who they may not hang out normally.
yeah. And they say, they use the words, the terms we and
Yeah.
our,
Mhm.
you know,
Team.
because in front of you,
Yep.
you know, in front of you guys who are playing, hey, our team, you know, we did it. You
Yeah,
know?
for sure.
I think that's, you know, that's what makes a fan great here in Seattle, because they feel like they're a part of it.
Well, we'll have to do it again, man.
You mentioned that Super Bowl win. I mean, I remember we lost.
Yeah.
Like we lost, and you couldn't. We felt as low as you could feel. But seeing the fan reaction, the support on it was 405 or I-5. I think it was 405,
Yep.
and just like over every bridge and over every, just really, really incredible.
Yeah, I remember when obviously when we won, obviously the fan support, but when we lost too, seeing that when we came back home, just all the fans waiting for us at the airport and then on the 405 coming home, you know, that experience too. So hopefully we can get to the good feeling again though.
Right.
But the
Yeah.
consistency of the fans and the 12s is pretty special. So.